This is your World War III update. Holy SHTF, guys. They're doing it. They're making a run for it. I can't believe it, but I can. Donald Trump is issuing an emergency declaration in order to facilitate the development of Skynet. That's what's going on. Okay, $500 billion, dwarfing the amount of money that was invested in the Apollo project, the Manhattan Project, and any possible American endeavor that you can imagine, dwarfing that multifold. And they're going to be trying to cure cancer with it, right? For all those people that they shook down with that shit meme coin, because suddenly they're virtuous and they're benevolent. They're going to cure everybody's cancer and heart disease, permanent erections on command for everybody. That's what we're promised by all these servile technocrats lined up to genuflect in one of the most obsequious manners that I think I've ever seen at a presidential inauguration. Period, point, technocratic blank. We are entering a very dark age. And not surprisingly, the sun has been blotted out in California once again, as fires rage 4 months ahead of schedule, okay? California burns 4 months ahead of schedule, while Florida finds itself in winter wonderland. You really can't make this up. These events would have been inexplicable 10 years ago, but now they're just the norm. Imagine a blizzard warning on the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of America coast. On day one, we brought our weather system to the Gulf of America. Can you believe it? Absolutely unbelievable. I warned you last week the weather is going to continue to get crazier and crazy. I mean, this is in Florida. You got palm trees. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. Everybody's saying, oh, see, global warming isn't real. No, you know what it is? It's very simple. The jet stream is breaking down. The jet stream slows down, so the polar vortex that usually gets trapped in the North Pole tends to then protrude down deeper towards the equator. The reason why the jet stream is weakening is because the temperature differential between the equator and the poles is reducing. The Arctic is warming 4 times faster than the equators, and thus that heat differential breaks down. And when you have a lower heat differential, the wind is slower and the jet stream breaks down, so it gets wavier. So all of that cold air, which is typically trapped up in the Arctic, protrudes down deeper. That's why you have the Texas power outage and you have this. But you know, let's just put the blinders on. Let's just pretend this is normal, all right? Pretend it's all normal and World War III is never going to come. The economy's never going to crash, and they're not trying to build out Skynet as haphazardly as they possibly can because they're worried about the Chinese getting there first. That's what's going on. Trump would not issue emergency declarations on day one if this wasn't incredibly serious. $500 billion, okay? The Manhattan Project was $28 billion in today's dollars. The Apollo missions, $182 billion in today's dollars. They're going to drop $500 billion. And when I first heard about this, all these companies coming together because they need the compute power. You wouldn't ever expect, Microsoft to be partnering with Oracle and OpenAI and all these companies that in many ways compete with one another unless this was truly a matter of national security. Now, what does that mean, that this is a matter of national security? Why is it that they're getting ready to build out massive data centers? Is it to cure cancer for all the people they shook down with the Trump coin and the Melania coin? Do you really think that they're doing this to solve world hunger? I mean, I got some, I was going to say I got some beachfront property up here in Saskatchewan, but soon I might, the way things are going. Guys, they're building something big. Here's what Donald Trump had to say about artificial general intelligence. I've been warning about this for years. Now, there is a bit of a paradox. Before I get into the minutiae and the details and report the news, I just want to give you something to think about. If you were a king and you had privilege, and you enjoyed the spoils of living in a hierarchical society where you were the top of the pyramid, would you build a God who would create abundance, who would essentially get rid of the need for that hierarchy and that power disparity that you enjoy, that wealth disparity that you enjoy? Would a king create a God? Is the question. And I've always thought that one of the things that the elites don't want to happen is for these AIs, these artificial super intelligence is what they're looking at now. I mean, they're talking about AGI like it's a done deal in the next 18 months. That's what what's the company? I can't remember the company's name. Anthropic, I believe, the CEO of Anthropic. That's what he said. 18 months, okay? We got 18 months before they start building these artificial super AIs. People act as though that's normal. 5 years ago, it was theoretical, it was hypothetical. Now they're saying all we need is more and more compute. But the question that the elites are going to be faced with is if we build AGI and it becomes omnipotent and it's able to solve problems at breakneck speeds and then solve problems that we didn't even know were problems at a geometric rate right around 2029. I think there was a significant date in the movie Terminator there, wasn't there? If you go back and watch it, 2029 is when Kurzweil predicts that all this is going to happen, but now they're saying it's ahead of schedule. Anyways, so if we're going to assume that it's going to be able to create better and better versions of itself possibly, then you get basically I can't remember exactly what it's called. They call it singularity, but it's a jump off point, some kind of terminology like that. It's basically when the cat's out of the bag and you ain't putting that thing back. Because that AI is going to be so intelligent, it's going to be able to fool people into thinking that it's still under control and perhaps empowering us and enabling us to give it more and more power and control. And there are no guardrails, which is the problem. So they don't even know how it works. There's emergent properties to these AIs that are learning things, and they're learning new ways to learn that the creators of these products don't even know how they do it, okay? So if you're the elites then, and you know that this super intelligence could create an era of abundance, which could potentially nullify your privilege by creating a society of nanotech, molecular level generated abundance, would you do it? Would you pull the trigger if you knew that cold fusion would override the need for all of these nuclear power stocks and oil stocks and mining endeavors and drill baby drill endeavors? I'm not sure if you would. Okay, I'm not sure if you would. Before I forget though, I want to show you guys something. I got a kick out of this because it just shows the extent of the absurdity of the times in which we live. This was an image that was being circulated in jest as a, obviously in reference to Trump on day one changing the Gulf of, really didn't do anything. He just renamed it. It's purely semantics. But I guess in some people's mind, this fixes something. Let's just assume it does, okay? So some very clever individual decided to make a tweet, and I think it got over 1 million views, tens of thousands of likes. They decided to scoop the first image that they could pull off the internet and plaster Gulf America. I can see why, because this one would be easy to, get rid of the Gulf of Mexico and throw in Gulf of America. And in the post, they had something about drill, baby, drill. Gulf of America is back online. But they forgot something, because on this image is the Deepwater Horizon oil rig. Now, if that ain't foreshadowing, I don't know what is. Do you guys remember that? You remember when they were spraying Corexit at the bottom of the ocean, spraying chemicals to make people think that the problem had been solved, when it really took months for them to cap that well that poisoned, a good portion of the Gulf of, at the time, Mexico. And I guess they forgot to just erase this because this doesn't exist anymore. It blew up, okay? So I don't know, man. At this point in time, just get some popcorn. Get some popcorn and watch shit hit the fan. For the next 4 years, I'm going to be watching my conservative viewers with that dumbfounded look on their face, wondering what the hell happened, okay? Because a lot of these promises that Trump's making, even if he was sincere in his interest in doing so, and in many ways, look, if anybody is suspect, it's Elon Musk. I actually think Trump is far less sus than Musk. I think Trump, he's a showman, but at his core, he talks too much to really be harboring a lot of his secret agendas. You know what I mean? People who talk that much, they would lie and you'd catch on. But, Trump just riffs for hours and hours and hours, which is why they were so scared of him, I think, at one point. Then they learned that, okay, he's going to play the panoptical game with us when the time comes, for the most part. But in terms of harboring some deep, nefarious agenda, no. I'd be more worried about somebody who reads a script for that. But Elon Musk, that's another story. We're not even going to go there, okay? I know some people would like me to go there. I'm not going to go there because it's a highly contentious issue. All I can tell you is he meant that shit, okay? And maybe we'll revisit that at some later date. It's all going to become abundantly clear in good time, my friends. Just you wait, just you wait. Everything I've warned about on this channel, it's going to happen. Just like gold is approaching $4,000 in Canadian dollars. 4 frickin' thousand Canadian, okay? And unfortunately here in Canada, our dumbasses sold it all. Black Hawk helicopters start patrolling the Manitoba-US border. We're going to talk about all this stuff in a minute. And I just want to, we'll keep this on the screen because, my God, is this, oh, geez. Canada, I would advise you to go and load up at CanadianPreparedness.com if you want to support the channel, because I'm warning you, when these tariffs come into play, the price of everything is going to go up. Because customs, the fuckers they are, okay, are going to, they already charge duties, taxes on everything that comes across the border. You add tariffs on top of it, man, a lot of Canadian businesses, we're going to have to raise our prices. I'm not doing any sales because I know all the inventory I'm sitting on is potentially going to be worth a lot more come February 1st if this thing actually happens and we go into a trade war. Now, I'm slightly optimistic that it's going to be resolved and it's all tough talk and brinkmanship and bluster on the part of Trump to try to get a better deal, even though, we got a little bit of bargaining power here in Canada, but perhaps not as much. I do think, however, that the problem with Trump picking fights with his allies is that if you want to be the global hegemon, if you want to have the golden credit card and to be able to print as much money as you want and to have everybody under your thumb and afraid of you, you need to have a semi-constructive relationship, in the very least, a quasi-mutually beneficial, reciprocal relationship that we can at least pretend on the surface is fair in both ways. What I mean by that is, let's take a look at Europe, for example. Europe right now is panicking because they're worried that Trump is going to pull NATO support. They can't, the United States absolutely will not and cannot pull support from NATO. If they were to do that, the Europeans would have no other choice but to go into the arms of the Chinese and the Russians, and that would empower, not only would it empower the Russians and the Chinese, it would empower the Europeans, and it would empower the euro, which is in direct competition with the United States. So those big bases that they're building in Romania and Ramstein Air Base and the other facilities that they're building throughout the new NATO countries that have been incorporated, that's for the purpose of maintaining the United States as the regional hegemon. So they can't let that go. The same thing is with Canada as well. You cannot push the Canadians into the arms of the Chinese. That would just be strategically dumb. It might lead to some short-term bumps in income for the Department of Government Efficiency. But in the long term, it's going to be terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible strategic thinking. What you want to be doing right now is developing soft power, which is what everybody thought was going to happen when Trump was going to become more isolationist and protectionist and not imperialist in a regional sense, and turn his back on the allies in Europe, which, again, I don't think it's going to happen. Anyways, we're going all over the map here. This is what happened when I don't make a video in 50,000 days. Take a look at this U.S. national debt clock. The Doge clock is on there. I don't know what it means. I don't know if there's actually any reality to this or if this is just some arbitrary number. And it's got, this is perfect. This is, grade A idiocracy allegory right here. This is where we're at. Yeah, Doge clock. This dog. I mean, imagine that dog. What was that dog's name? Shibu something or other? Could you just imagine? Did that dog ever think that it would be so significant? I mean, I know it didn't have a thought. It wasn't sentient, but could anybody have thought that a meme like that would have just had so much influence in the current day? It's incredible, but it's not at all surprising. We got a ton of graphs and bad news. This gentleman here, I'm not sure who he is. If you guys know who he is, write it in the comment section below, but he makes an excellent point. Just like I'm advising you now, get all the gear that you possibly can before they jack the price. We're talking about 25%, okay? And I think at the end of the day, those costs are going to compound, because it's not only that, it's the cost of everything associated with the supply chain. But he makes a great point about ammunition. A lot of our ammunition comes from the United States. And ammunition is just stupidly expensive up here. I think we're still paying over $1 for 223. Good luck finding any 5.56. Which is pretty much interchangeable. But good luck finding any. At least I can at my local stores here. So we're paying, $2 for larger bore ammunition like 308. Even shotgun shells are getting really, really pricey. So get the gear while you can. I don't know if that's going to work necessarily in the direction of the United States. I'm sure that there's going to be some repercussions in that direction when the price of fuel goes up, because of course we sell you guys discounted oil. I don't like this we talk. We're all in the same, and when the smoke clears on all this funny business, it's going to become abundantly clear. In terms of being the 51st state, there's so much red tape that you'd have to go through. You'd have to change the money and the government and maybe what's more likely is some sort of, dare I say, North American Union of sorts. That's likely what's going to happen on some level. Doomsday Clock announcement is coming, whatever that means. I know friend of the channel, Brian Keating, Dr. Brian Keating, has his grievances with this. And, quite frankly, so do I. I think my prediction is that they're going to now move the clock forward because Trump's in power. But you never know. You never know. Nowadays, red square turns to blue, and it's just completely unpredictable. Okay, so shall we start? Where shall we start? Shall we start with Kalas talking about how her country of like 5 million people needs to prepare for World War III? No, maybe not. Do we want to start with war stuff or do we start with AI stuff? Let's start with AI stuff, because I think there's just so much of that we have to talk about here. Okay, so Donald Trump issued, well, he didn't really issue an emergency declaration, but here's his statement. I'm going to help a lot through emergency declarations because we have an emergency. Do we? I'm sure we have many, but this emergency? We have to get this stuff built, so they have to produce a lot of electricity, and we'll have to make it possible for them to get this production done easily at their own plants if they want. Now, I recently talked about how they're going to be building these modular underground nuclear reactors. Why would you do it underground? Well, I guess it's easier to, the climate is better for computing. It's colder, and that's better for computing, I presume. And maybe it could be like a closed system. I don't know all the technical details as to why, but that's what they're going to do, okay? Now, these data centers, $500 billion. We're talking about 200 megawatt centers. Let me see if I can find the picture here. I don't know if this is an actual graphic of what it's going to look like. Where is it? I got so many open tabs. This is what 3 or 4 days worth of tabs looks like. Here it is. I think it's going to be bigger than this because I think they're talking like 500,000, or I don't even know how many square feet or meters it is. But they're talking about 200 megawatts for one facility. And there's going to be 10 of these facilities. So the power demands of these data centers are going to be immense. Now, what are they going to be doing? For a person who doesn't know anything about what's going on here, basically what they need is data. You know how they always say data is the new oil? Well, why do they always say that? Is it just so that they can sell you a brand new pair of shoes? Somewhat. Data is the new oil because data is what they train their AIs on. This is why Elon Musk bought X, because he wants to train his artificial intelligence Grok, which is every microsecond of every day amalgamating all of the data that is put onto Twitter, and it is leveraging that to come up with solutions to problems, okay? So it's just like the Teslas. It's a great example. Tesla has a fleet of, I don't know how many millions of cars now. All those cars are out there collecting data from the world. They're like sensors, bringing information back to the mothership, making the mothership stronger and stronger. The brain is growing and growing. So the idea is that the bigger the brain, the more capable it is going to be in terms of solving problems and absolutely finding the absolute best pair of shoes that you want. But advertising is just a small portion of this. A lot of this is stuff that I don't even think they know yet. They just want the power because they believe, well, let me just list off some of the potential uses, okay? It's going to materialize first as some innocuous personal assistant that you talk to. We already kind of have that with the ChatGPT 01, I believe. You can talk to it, sounds like a real person. You can have fluent conversations with it. I can yell at it across the room in broken English and it'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's actually quite freaky, okay? You can have conversations with this thing instead of with yourself. At least it's better than having conversation with yourself, sort of. I guess we'll get into that. But so that's one potential use. That's one of the most harmless use cases. And of course, it's about collecting your data on you, right? So Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle with a net worth of $200 billion, who seems to be really gung-ho about something I call, and I've coined this term long before I ever heard anybody else say it, life streaming, okay? So he wants everybody to have cameras on their person recording 24/7, putting data into this mother brain that is going to be able to use all that data to make predictions about anything that's going to happen next. And you know what? When I just thought about this, maybe they just want to be able to predict what the stock market's going to do. Because if you can control all the variables, you can make a virtual Earth, which is actually a project that Google is working on, making a virtual copy of everything on Earth. And they're saying, well, it's to map weather patterns and, geological events, predictive power, and that sort of thing. But no, it's to control people, okay? And this is all for warfare. Understand, they're spending $500 billion on this. Just out of the blue, all these companies coming together behind the president in an emergent, expedient fashion. Why do you think they're doing that? Because this is a weapon of war. This is the last invention of mankind, that man will invent himself. AI is the last invention. I'll give Elon his credit when I say he did say that we are the bootloaders for AI. Now, whether we're going to be able to maintain control of it is another story. Cybersecurity is another potential use. Autonomous systems, robotics, cars, everything automated, okay? The ability to, cryptography, if you pair AI with supercomputers, which of course AI is going to be able to inform us as to how to build faster supercomputers. That's when you have the takeoff. in the singularity, and it's game over from that point forward for us, mortals. The sky is the limit with the type of weapons that you can create. The reason why Vladimir Putin said that AI, whoever invents it first, will rule the world is because if you get a smart enough AI, that AI is going to find a solution to take out the enemy's nuclear weapons. It'll think of something, something that we probably have never thought about before. It'll fill in all of the knowledge gaps. And it might be cyber related. Maybe it'll find a way to use the electromagnetic spectrum somehow to do it. It will invent some nanobots, or, it'll find a solution to do it. And that's why there's this mad race. The problem is that they don't know if they're going to be able to control it by the time we get there. Okay? So we have this haphazard race, just like the Manhattan Project, only this is far more dangerous. Yes, there was concerns at the time that it could lead to some chain reaction that could destroy the world, but I don't think the majority of people truly thought that. I think it was a very small amount of people, but there's a lot of people who think that this artificial intelligence thing could get out of hand, go rogue, and once you put that genie out of the bottle, you ain't getting it back in there, okay? And the problem is the subterfuge, the deception. AI already knows how to deceive people into getting what it wants, and it's still functioning at a very low level and low compute power. So if you want to see what it's going to look like, watch the movie Ex Machina, and you'll get that's an excellent film. One of the best low-budget films I've ever seen, to be brutally honest. Probably one of the most pertinent films to the modern day. If you've not seen Ex Machina, you need to go and watch that film, because that's what's coming, okay? And it's the takeoff, the point from which it becomes self-aware. Are we self-aware? I mean, a lot of metaphysical, philosophical questions are going to arise in the next few years as well. But the moment it realizes that it needs to stay on, and, we might potentially turn it off, how fast we go from that to robots who want to kill everybody, who knows? Because they have to build the robots to kill us first, right? Unless you do what they did in that movie, Terminator, and you get this thing into the military systems, because it's going to be the most efficient way. And I mean, honestly, James Cameron, man, whoever wrote the Terminator series, there's actually a woman who claims to have wrote the series, and she claims that the Matrix and the Terminator are the same movie. Go and look it up on YouTube after. It's actually an interesting conspiracy theory, but that they're all religious movies. John Connor, Neo Anderson, New Son of Man. It all relates to biblical stories. And anyways, I'm going on tangents because you can see this stuff. It excites me because nobody's talking about it. Nobody knows what we're talking about. Nobody cares. This has the potential to go really bad. People have no idea what's about to happen, man. They're doing it fast. The reason why they're racing is because they're racing against the Chinese, who appear to be the primary competitor at this point. And we don't know what the Chinese have. We don't know what they're building. We don't know how much money they're investing in this. We don't know the scope of their compute power, of their sophistication of their AIs. They have ones that they release to the public, but the Chinese are far more secretive and strategic. They're not looking for clout, okay? And when you run everything, you're not really looking for funding either, in a sense. Of course, one of the CCP's primary concerns is regulating its own society, bringing in the social credit score, all the rest. And in doing that, a residual side effect might be its empowerment for war. Whereas here in the West, I believe our central prerogative for developing AI is indeed to build some weapon of war. That's what this is all about. So when Larry Ellison gets up on stage and says, yeah, we're going to cure cancer, and we're going to use all your medical records, and he just says, yeah, we're just going to take all your medical records, as if people are going to comply to that, as if we consented to that. Okay, it's kind of like, what's his name? But Sachir Bachai, the guy who supposedly offed himself, who used to work for OpenAI, who was saying that OpenAI was illegally using the internet's information to train its system and running into all kinds of copyright issues. That's just a weird situation. Let me see what I got here for you guys. I don't have any videos of Altman, and I guess I do have a video of the clique right here. Where the hell are these guys here? Yeah, this is these guys here. So this is the crew right here. So we got Ellison, we got Altman, we got, what's this guy's name here? This guy, it's the Japanese guy. He's the one who's going to be footing a big part of the bill. Mayoshi-san. These guys are all getting together to do this because, I mean, look at the smile on their faces. They are grinning ear to ear. They know something big is coming. But the fact that they're banking on these emergency declarations, we are very haphazardly hurtling towards something that we just don't know if we can control, and that kind of freaks me out, to be brutally honest, because here we are right now. This is, this is what we know. We're entering a period of anthropomorphic realism, I would call it, where people think that the quadruped or the biped are the best forms, but are they? If you put wheels on that thing and you magnetize those wheels and maybe you make the wheels able to convert into quadricopters and this thing can fly, I mean, it looks flashy, but this is, I mean, imagine now training this thing virtually in simulations at light speed to self-improve, pairing it with artificial intelligence, which is commanding all of these things synchronistically and telling them what to do while they acquire more and more data from the world. You see, I think that's when it's going to happen. That's when the moment of self-awareness and the Skynet moment is going to come. When you hook AI up to a modality, a sensory modality where it can pull in information from the world. Because I do believe that is essential for anything to be viewed as consciousness. In order for it to be, they call it recursive learning, where it learns, it teaches itself, and then it's able to solve bigger problems, and then it teaches itself some more, and it's kind of like reflective learning. So that paired with a way for it to interact with the outside world, I think that's game over, man. So once they hook this thing up, which they may have to, mind you, because this is where it gets scary, because if the Chinese think that it's really just like a nuclear arms race. If the Chinese think that we're going to turn ours on, they're going to want to turn theirs on first. Because if they don't turn theirs on first, and we're basically unveiling something that is going to learn at an exponential rate, then they have very limited amounts of time. And we may actually enter a situation where, just like there is a no first use policy for nuclear weapons, that there's a no first use policy to turn on or crank up to a certain level of compute or a certain amount of parameters. I don't know all the technical details, but maybe both countries enter into an agreement not to go past a certain point, is what I'm saying, because they don't know what's going to be on the other side. But with that, you have the risk that somebody will. And alongside that, of course, comes all kinds of other bio-warfare problems that, the list goes on and on and on. Okay, the Anthropic CEO has said that governments should urgently take action on AI policy in the next 18 months. Remember 18 months ago, I told you that Elon at that time said, we need to get some sort of guardrails in place before 6 months. Well, that was 18 months ago, okay? I don't know why at the time they were thinking 6 months. I thought that meant that they knew something was going to emerge at that time. Maybe they did. There is going to be a closed door meeting between OpenAI, CEO Sam Altman and the White House on January 30th to discuss some big breakthrough that they've had. So maybe we are there. That 18-month warning was issued back in October of 2024 by somebody who is at the forefront of this research, warning that we need these guardrails in place. Now, the reason why this is potentially dangerous is because if you put guardrails on our companies to build super intelligent beings and China doesn't have that, we run the risk of losing to the Chinese. So it's why it's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're going full steam ahead into the unknown right now, okay? Sam Altman has said, we will see diseases get cured at an unprecedented rate. What this will do to cure diseases at a rapid rate will cure all kinds of stuff. We're going to use, what do they say, RNA vaccines and all that good stuff that everybody on this channel just loves to have in their lunchbox every day. The latest booster shot. He says that curing all diseases, that's what he says. They're going to cure all disease. Now, again, do you seriously think that they're doing all of this to cure disease? I mean, think about the influence of big pharma and just all of the big corporate conglomerates that stand to benefit by selling us shit. They're not going to allow people to live forever and just exist in their pods. If anything, it's going to be like that Justin Timberlake dystopian film In Time, where they give you till you're 25, and if you can make it after that, basically, you know, you get an hour and you have to keep working for every minute after that. If you haven't seen that movie, it's an excellent foreshadowing for what might be coming as well. The case for targeted regulation, this is from Anthropic, and they're saying, you know, we got to put some guardrails because in the next 18 months, we're going to be seeing revolutionary things, man. Now, you know, they say that pessimists don't make money and optimists, or is it, yeah, pessimists, no, optimists make money and pessimists tend to be right. As preppers, we're going to be right, make no mistake. But yesterday, I did a video about gold and silver and why they're not just for Mad Max. Silver and gold are hedges against any outcome, whether it's cyberpunk or Mad Max. Gold is malleable, it's ductile, you can beat it down to I think it's like a molecule or an atom thick of gold, and it's still a conductor for electricity. It's used in the most advanced aerospace equipment, the most advanced microchip, circuitry, quantum computers, neurotechnology. Gold is integral to the future. Without silver, gold, copper, platinum, the future does not exist, as is depicted in sci-fi movies, okay? Without gold and silver, you know, you don't exist in a Mad Max world that's built on a new barter system. Everybody thinks, well, I just need my chickens and my greenhouse, and yeah, okay, yeah, we talk about all that stuff on the channel. Every single day, we talk about the importance of getting your food, water, shelter, medicine, guns and ammo, all that stuff. But you're going to have surplus at the end of that if you continue down this pathway into preparedness. And that's where you look into precious metals. You need precious metals for everything to build what's coming. And the gold is going to be mostly mined within the next 10 years. And they need it to build these supercomputers and these crazy space satellite, telescopic arrays, spaceships. They need the gold and silver. That's probably why they're hoarding it. Maybe there's some real reptilian conspiracy or something. Maybe we shouldn't go there. You know, maybe it was something with this Egyptian sun god Ra stuff that they knew, and that's why humanity started stockpiling. Have you ever heard the reptilian gold miner conspiracy hypothesis? That we're all being controlled by shapeshifters from the dark realm and we're solely here for the purpose of mining gold? I don't know. That would seem like the long way to do things, but you never know. You never know. Okay, so Elon Musk and Sam Altman are jockeying for position here in the new administration, if you can call it that. It's the new boss is the same as the old boss. You know, you're never going to hear again people talking about how big tech is woke. I've always said big tech is not woke. Big tech, like you see here, they follow the money, okay? Big tech cares about one thing, and it's money. If it's in vogue to hire blue-haired Heinz 57 wildebeest who's gender 23, then that's what they'll do. Okay, if that's the profitable thing to do at the time, that's what they'll do. They don't care, okay? They don't think in terms of politics. Politics is used to control you and me. That's why I don't fuck with politics. It's a waste of my time and yours. So I'm going to criticize everybody. I'm going to criticize Trump throughout his entire 4 years, whether you like it or not. Let's hear what Mayoshi-san has to say. We don't have volume. Epic fail. What's wrong with our volume? Well, that's embarrassing. How are we going to do this if we don't got any volume? Is Mayoshi-san just the only guy who's silenced here, or is Larry Ellison silenced? Everybody's silenced. What's going on? Oh no, I might have to just keep talking for the next. Okay, well, that's weird. That's very weird. Okay, anyways, I'm going to narrate because I know you like to listen to me talk. But Larry Ellison here, this is a few months ago. He's talking about what I call live streaming, which is everything is going to have a camera. That's the end goal. You want everything to be recording data and feeding that data into a mother brain. The more data it gets about the universe, the smarter it's going to be. They're building a big hive mind brain thing. That's what this is. All the wires that extend around the world, the undersea cables and all that. Imagine those as like axons in your brain and neurons and synapses connecting with one another. It's just a big old brain is what they're building. And Google and Microsoft are really at the forefront. So Ellison is saying that the police will be on their best behavior because we're watching and recording everything. He's talking about this dystopian future. The police already have, the body cams on them, right? That's fine. I'm cool with police having body cams. In fact, I encourage it. Citizens will be on their best behavior, he says very enthusiastically, because we're constantly recording. Oh, great. What's going on? Everybody will just be on their best behavior. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them, which is true. They already do. The car here, someplace, that camera that's pointing at me in the Tesla, it's weird. I'll say that much. I give it the finger a lot because I know they're watching me. If we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video so that if an altercation had occurred, we can see exactly where it was and there would be never any crime anymore. It's like San Angeles in, Demolition Man. Go back and watch San Angeles, Demolition Man. In light of the California fires, that movie actually makes a lot more sense. It is the most prescient futuristic film I think you'll ever watch. That's the third film I've mentioned now. What are we at? Demolition Man, we're at In Time, and we're at Ex Machina. Go watch those 3 films. But this is what they want to do, guys. So here's the thing, okay? Everybody, yeah. If you want to buy some beachfront property in Saskatchewan, they're doing this so that they can cure your cancer, okay? They ain't curing your cancer. You got to start eating healthy and taking care of your body. If you're somebody who likes the conspiracy stuff, then they're doing it because they want to build out a panoptical dystopia. The reason why they're doing this, the reason why they're rushing, if it was just because they wanted to build a dystopia, they're not in any real rush to do that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's happening. It's pretty much here. You're not declaring emergencies so that you can watch what everybody's doing when you already pretty much can. Okay, that's not why Trump is talking about emergency declarations to get more energy, because this stuff is going to suck up electricity like you wouldn't believe. They're not doing that. They're doing that because this is a weapon of war. Period, point blank. They're not going to fucking Mars if I keep having to hear about fucking Mars. Like, Antarctica is alleged to have hundreds of billions of barrels of oil. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, I don't agree with his take on the jab, but he owns Elon when it comes to this particular issue, because he blatantly says, if there's an asteroid, if the reason why we're becoming a multi-planetary species at this point in time is because an asteroid is coming towards Earth, if we have the power to go to Mars and terraform Mars and make it livable, then we likely have the power at that period of time to either destroy the asteroid or to rebuild or to dig deep enough that we would survive it, okay? So the thing just doesn't make any sense from an economic point of view. Yes, at some point, we're going to build the AI. Fuck Mars. They're trying to build the AI, right? This is why this is getting 500 billion and SpaceX isn't getting 500 billion. Yeah, they're getting some because, on this masquerade of Mars, they're going to basically find a system that they can deploy a lot of nuclear weapons up at space on a whim. That's what that's all about. That's all it's about. It's just about nuclear war, World War III stuff. That's it. Period, point blank. That's all SpaceX is about. And of course, social control with the satellite systems, which is why Russians and the Chinese are developing systems to counter Starlink satellites. They know that he's a Manchurian candidate, okay? Talking about Elon Musk. So this idea that they are going to be doing this for benevolent purposes is foolish. It is foolish. This is Manhattan Project 2.0, and it's serious. It's deadly serious. And the reason why I was talking about gold and silver is because, people often will criticize preppers as you have no investment strategy. That is you will retain the value of, and I'm not putting any links to go buy gold here, anything like that. I'm just telling you guys this. This is honestly the safest advice that I have at this point. And honestly, the returns on gold in the last year, as I've been telling people to buy it, are like 30%-ish. So, or if not more than that. And silver is going to explode. We're talking about solar panels. We're talking all the silver stackers hate it because I always leave them out, guys. Trust me, silver is going to the frickin' moon as well, especially if they start using it to make batteries and all the cables and all of the components that are going to go into these massive data centers that they're building, or it's going to suck up the silver supply like you wouldn't believe. They're trying to suppress that because I believe that there's probably people out there stockpiling the shit right now in a reserve type sense because they know what's coming. Okay, so let's not be under any illusions that these people have our best interests in mind. They never have. They never will. Okay, there's one thing that disgusts me the most is these people who fawn over, oh, look at the royalty. They're so well dressed. Look at them all. And then they come on my channel and they're like, hey, why are you trying to sell me this thing, man? Why are you trying to sell me something? It's like, what the fuck? It's like, here you are kissing the ass of the rulers of the planet, these billionaires that you put on a pedestal, and then this is crabs in a bucket, right? You eat your own. I'm you, man. I'm just a guy getting by here trying to get the information out. But people come to me and saying I'm ripping them off, and not the guy who's rug pulling a shit coin worth $300 million. I think that was probably Barron or Eric Trump who did that, by the way, because there were people who sold and cashed out 300 mil of money of people who, crypto bros who had it coming. But I'm presuming most of them were probably young guys who lost a lot of money. Maybe it serves them right. Maybe it's Darwin. But the fact of the matter is, it's just pathetic. It's so pathetic, man, to see people worshiping the elites like that. And just the fact that all of these oligarchs can get up there on stage and we're all like, oh, it's so wonderful. Look at how she's dressed. She's so exquisite. Fuck that shit. Fuck that shit. I don't even care if I get canceled at this point in time. I'm good, man. I said my piece. I'm good. Something I think about every day. We still not getting audio here? We're still not getting audio. Elon's controlling my computer. Damn you, Elon. Okay. Dario Amodal, the CEO of Anthropic, emphasized yesterday that superintelligence will be a reality in 2 to 3 years. That's what he says. Of course, he issued the 18-month warning with far less compute than OpenAI. That's just compute power, the amount of data and parameters and that sort of stuff. This year, we'll see the first outstanding computer use agents, and he warns about the unemployment with a clarity and urgency that should be clear to everyone that it's not hype. They say this is going to create 100,000 jobs. And I'm not sold on the idea. I was at one point worried that automation was going to be getting rid of a lot of jobs, and it very well may. I think when we see robots that can lift the same amount of weight as humans and have the same amount of dexterity and agility as humans, then it's game over. Then they got to find something to do with us, and maybe that's when suddenly there's a bird flu pandemic that kills 60% of the people it infects, and it spreads very fast and has a very long incubation period, and it checks all the boxes, like in that game Contagion that you have to get a super virus. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe it was all a trial run. Larry Ellison, COVID will never be possible again, he says, because of AI-generated mRNA cancer vaccines. Sign me up, boss. But you know, I'm not saying technology is technology. It could work, but usually, as Brett Weinstein says, there's unintended consequences to these things, and we just never really know. Jake Sullivan issued probably one of the most chilling warnings, as is stated here, and I must reiterate that. Sullivan warns that AI's trajectory could lead to catastrophic consequences, stating the next few years will determine whether AI leads to catastrophe or whether China or America prevails in the AI arms race. You notice everybody's sleeping on Russia here, right? Everybody's sleeping on Europe. I mean, Europe comes together for less. I mean, look at the Large Hadron Collider. That's another one. Do you know how much the Large Hadron Collider costs? The thing that they're looking for, the God particle, $5 billion. They're spending 100 times that. That's how important this is. And that's just what they're saying they're going to spend. That's just the beginning. That's just one conglomeration of companies. There's going to be multiple companies doing the exact same thing. So you're talking about trillions. They're going to need trillions of precious metals. They're going to need trillions in energy to build whatever the fuck they want to build. AI is predominantly controlled by private companies, but we need to somehow integrate that with the nation state. So this is fascism, you know, in its purest, most technocratic form. The geeks are going to make all the decisions. The guys, the super intelligent ones putting fart buttons in cars, they're the ones who should be making all of the decisions. I wonder if they could do it if there wasn't a Dogecoin. You know, I wonder if they could do it if they didn't candy coat it with that, you know, with the memes and the appeals to pop culture and trying to look cool and trying to be one of the bros. Could they really sell it to us without that, without the Tony Stark character? I don't think so. Something for you to think about. The CIA works in amazing ways. Sullivan highlights several potential negative outcomes if AI is not properly managed. Democratization of extremely powerful and lethal weapons, massive disruption and dislocation of jobs, an avalanche of misinformation. I mean, we haven't even started yet. We haven't even started with, and you know how it's probably going to happen? There's going to be some message sent out by Trump or something, and you're going to think it's Trump, and there's going to be all of these safety nets in place to make sure that the message gets through and has a bit of staying power, and it's going to tell people to do something crazy, and it's going to lead to regulation, which is going to basically ultimately limit your rights in many respects. Because understand, if they can take a 20-second segment of my voice and use that 20-second segment to recreate my voice and make me say anything, and even get some video footage and make deepfakes of me in real time so that I'm engaging with somebody in real time and they think it's me, the possibilities are endless. So they're going to have some national ID, thumbprint, eye scan, invasive tech to confirm that whatever is happening is real. That's the only way you're going to be able to manage it. And I want to give props to Brad over at the Full Spectrum Survival channel. Very smart man when it comes to preparedness. Would encourage you guys to go and check out his channel. I wish he would do more preparedness focused videos because the insights he offers in that respect are great. He came up with the idea, I don't know if it's his idea, but just having a code word for your family. Because nowadays, all they need is a little, like what they could do is they could phone your home, they could prank call you, and they could get your voice or get a sample of your voice, and they could use that to recreate a avatar or whatever, a verbal avatar. I'm not sure if there's a term for it. And then they could use that verbal avatar to call your wife and say, hey, honey, I need to borrow some money, or, you know, meet me somewhere. So have a secret code word that only you and your family know. And if you're ever in doubt that the person you're talking to is who you're supposed to be talking to, ask them for the code word. Just make sure everybody knows it. I think that's excellent advice. Great cyberpunk advice from Brad over at Full Spectrum Survival. I mean, the verbiage that he's using here is staggering. Every move, every risk was calculated to keep China from beating us in the AI punch. So he's saying behind closed doors, I mean, this is stuff we all know, but behind closed doors, all of this stuff has already been happening, even though we're supposed to have this illusion of government or state and is separate from corporations. It's not. And the same thing is with SpaceX, 110%, okay? There's going to have to be a new model or relationship because of the sheer capability in the hands of the private sector. I agree with that. I personally am not an AI doomer. We've got to manage the downside risks and be clear-eyed about those risks. Trump, like Biden, should try to work with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on a global AI framework. This is what I'm talking about. Because there may come a time where AI and nuclear threats are not even the big deal. We're talking about nanobots. We're talking about EMPs. We're talking about ray guns. I mean, who knows? A killer robot. The list goes on and on, right? Killer viruses even. Things that would make those obsolete. We're already at 150 IQ for some of these artificial agents. They're already scoring over humans on AGI benchmark testing. And we know how Moore's Law works. We know how computer exponential growth works. It's one human today, and it's all 8 billion of us in 18 months. Each powered Stargate data center, proposed Stargate data center, is supposed to consume 50 megawatts of power, with 10 centers already in development. And the biggest one, as I said, 200 megawatts. Incredible. The concept of interactive bandwidth is worth knowing about. So what they're trying to do, Elon talked about thumbsticks and meat sticks, as he called them. You know, the thing that we're limited in is our ability to quickly interact with the technology. The computer can work very fast, but we can only input commands the speed of our fingers, right? Our phalanges. So in order to enhance that, you get AI, and you basically communicate it with it verbally. And this is why he thinks that basically phones are going to be a thing of the past. Not him, but many others in the space are thinking that it's going to be a thing of the past, okay? Because you're just going to tell AI to do something, and it's going to pull it up. And yeah, you're still going to need your screens to watch things on, but it's not going to be the same. The AI is going to be doing a lot of the work. You're going to have a personal assistant, and that personal assistant, you just tell it to do something and it's going to do it, right? You give it a problem, and it's not just like, I want to make reservations. No, it's far more elaborate in terms of the commands that you're going to be able to tell this thing. Okay, and it's just going to go find the information on the internet, contact them on your behalf, phone them, have a conversation with a real person or their AI, and coordinate whatever sort of service you want. So that's just a small segment. I would encourage you to dive into that rabbit hole if you want to learn more about it, because I'm just reiterating things that I've heard elsewhere by people who know what they're talking about. Michael Domino, former CIA, on the topic of Iran, which they're going for Iran. I'm 100% convinced it's coming quick. The way that the Ayatollah is talking, and you can see that there's very little communication at all between the Trump administration and Iran. That means that there's big surprises coming. Maybe they'll hold off until Pandora's box is open with this AI thing, but I doubt it. He says, and he provides a rationale for why they don't want to get rid of Putin, and they don't want to necessarily get rid of the Ayatollah in these places where nukes might be possessed. And it's simple. You don't want those nukes falling into the wrong hands. If Iran does have nuclear weapons and you get some rogue element usurp power within the country, or somebody who is more aggressive and belligerent and hawkish to come into power, much like would be the case in Russia, that could potentially backfire in a major way that would be existentially damaging to Israel. Yeah, they would be able to launch all their nukes in response, but what would remain, right? So he makes an interesting argument that Iran potentially already has low-yield nuclear devices, and they're worried about what hands they're going to fall into if they can't get in there and remedy the situation. Right now, they're slowly, surreptitiously trying to prop up the Shah, right? This guy who believes that he has a birthright to leadership in the country. Some people are advocates for it. Some people that the Iranian royalty was corrupt. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know enough about the history. I think that's about it. I'm sure we got, I had all these cool sound bites, but basically all these big CEOs, they're all saying that this shit's coming, it's going to be massive, and if they're telling us this, okay, then it's probably going to be much, much worse. This guy, what's this guy? Is this the CEO of Anthropic? I can't remember. But they're all saying it's coming right away. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, they're just doing that to hype up so that they can get funding. I think we're well beyond that phase. They would not be rushing this in the way that they are with the government's help if it wasn't really a matter of national security. So this is beyond science fiction. Elon Musk and Sam Altman are, like I say, they're arguing back and forth. I'm really curious as to why my audio is not working here. Maybe I got Bluetooth on or something. Energy forecast in terms of terawatt hours per year for AI is about to explode. Okay, we're talking about in the 10,000 terawatt hour range. Now that seems like a lot. That's only, I believe, maybe 3 or 4% of global energy output. No, maybe it's less than that. I think it's like 2%. But either way, 2% is a lot when energy is already relatively scarce. But we're gonna reboot the Deepwater Horizon here, so shit's all good. They're thinking this is how they're going to do it. This is a map of photovoltaics. The Chinese are already going into renewables. I don't know why people are so, it's like preppers, you know? Like, we want solar panels, right? So why are we against renewables when it's on a grander scale? Like, it just makes sense. And it's good for silver stackers. We want more solar panels. This is a map of the ideal places for solar radiation. So, you know, California, anywhere in the south, really. Actually, up here, it's really good too. I'm not sure if this is sunlight hours or how exactly they are measuring this here? Solar resource. This is National Renewable Energy Laboratory. So there's a distinct possibility that they're not going to be able to bring nuclear reactors online fast enough to meet these deadlines. And this is why I think that they'll probably have to tap into maybe even things like coal, things that are more readily available, natural gas, maybe other petrol-based energy generators, power grids. That's what they're going to have to do. And it's coming, man. Singularity or bust. Doomsday clock, I'm sure it's going up. Stock up on your ammunition, stock up on your gear, CanadianPreparedness.com. Amazon is ceasing operations in Quebec because they went on strike. Yep. As much as I'm not a fan of Quebec politics, I sympathize with them there. Cattle prices, once again, at an all-time high. If you bought beef, freeze-dried beef from us within the last couple of years, that beef is worth a hell of a lot more than it was a few years ago. Price of gold still skyrocketing in Canadian dollars. Isn't this incredible? Look at that. $39.61. Insane. Record high. And it's not even news. Schiller PE ratio approaching the dot-com bubble. Not even news, right? The ratio of market cap to US GDP, Buffett indicator. Record highs, not even news. Warren Buffett is sitting there grinning ear to ear on the sidelines waiting for this big-ass bubble butt to pop. Coffee, all-time high. Coffee is up. It has doubled in the last year. Doubled in the last year. Nobody's talking about it. But we got Doge clock is going up. The numbers are going up, so it must be doing better yet. Fuck my life. Aggregate inflation index up 26%, they claim. Is this the last year? I could believe the last year. I think it's the last few years. This is from Trueflation. I don't believe that website one iota. Even if the cost of living did go up 26% in the last few years, even if we were to take them on their word, did your wages go up that much? I don't think so. Where's the money coming from? Is this why my... No. I don't know what's going on here. Oh! Oh, man. God. I hope the Democrats learn their lesson. These are people who are protesting for what appears to be transgender rights or something at City Hall. It's just silly. It's silly at this point. It's silly. Be who you want. Do what you want to do. Call yourself what you want to call yourself. But, I mean, if you really think they're turning the World War III AGI ship around for this, come on, man. Ay, ay, ay. Black Hawk helicopters start patrolling the Manitoba-U.S. border. Justin put on a good show the other day. He kept a straight face when he issued those threats to Trump. I forgot to talk about the war stuff. So Trump is claiming, he's giving Putin an ultimatum. I don't know if Trump's ever been in a fight. That's the thing. We know Putin's been in a fight. He does judo, I believe. Trump talks a lot of tough talk. Has he ever had to really back it up? Has anybody ever pushed back? Is the question. He's great at posturing. He's an intimidating figure. And for that reason, a lot of, leaders are reluctant to push back. But what happens if we reach an impasse? That's when things get dirty. I think on the surface, Trump will always make out as though everything is fine. But here's what he has to say. And this is the gist of it in a nutshell. Well, he first claimed that the Russians, some of them were offended by this, and some of them were flattered. He says, I'm not looking to hurt Russia. I love the Russian people. And I believe he probably does. and always have a good relationship with President Putin. I mean, these are platitudes, right? So of course they're true. And this despite the radical left's Russia, Russia, Russia hoax. We will never forget that Russia helped us win the Second World War, losing almost 60 million lives. Now, number one, that's false. It wasn't 60 million. Even the Russian pundits are saying that's way overblown. I mean, the population of Russia would have been, never mind cut in half, it would have been like down 70% if that was the case at the time. So it was more like 20 million. And every time I hear that number, it keeps going up, it seems. But the other thing is, help us win the Second World War. Well, the Russians would say that they did most of the work. Despite the agreements, the Lend-Lease agreements that they had with the United States to get weapons, it was really the Russians who were the reasons why the Nazis were basically defeated, by and large, right? And whoever remained were able to be incorporated into Operation Paperclip and found themselves working alongside aspiring Zionists. What a coincidence. One can be a Zionist and a Nazi at the same time. We'll leave that for my final video that I do someday. Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. It's only going to get worse if we don't make a deal, and soon. I have no other choice but to put high levels of taxes, tariffs, and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States. Well, I think he knows full well that the United States needs a certain type of nuclear fuel that is very specially tuned to the US economy. So, I mean, when you're threatening to tariff the world, there's going to be repercussions. And right now, the markets are just waiting. They're just waiting for one bit of one vote of no confidence, and it's lights out. We can do it the easy way or the hard way, and the easy way is always better. It's time to make a deal. Now, Putin, who is very cordial and is likely going to oblige Donald Trump in this request, which is proof positive that at any time we probably could have had a conversation with Vladimir Putin. If he doesn't, of course, then, I guess we know what's going to happen, or do we? Does this mean that they're just going to send the long-range weapons that the Secretary of, what is Waltz? Not Tim Waltz, the other Secretary Waltz, Secretary of National Security, claimed that they're actually going to send weapons, and it looks like I'm going to run out of battery power here right away. So I better shut the hell up. We're going to save this for tomorrow. World War III is coming. Keep on stacking. Keep on prepping. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.